think we're ready. Good afternoon. I'm Spencer Kronk, Austin City Manager, and I'm joined today by Mayor Adler, Greg Mazzaros, Austin Water. We have Eric Cantor from the Travis County Emergency Management Coordinator. We have Hector Nieto from Travis County PIO. We have Chuck Brotherton, Travis County Executive, and on Emergency Services. We have Ray Ariano, the Assistant City Manager. Juan Ortiz, our Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, and Stephanie Hayden, our Director of Austin Public Health. I want to start today by thanking the Austin community. Yesterday, we took an unprecedented step of issuing a citywide boil water ordinance and restrict water use because of the impacts of the recent flooding. The good news is that you heard us and it's working. But we are asking you to keep your conservation efforts. Don't water your lawn, wash your car, keep your showers short. While we're planning for and prepared for whatever Mother Nature might throw at us, we have no indication at this point that this will be a long-term issue. We are talking days and not weeks. To that end, I want to thank our state and county partners for their continued partnership and coordination in this effort. I understand that these are not ideal circumstances, but I am confident that together we will get through this. I'll now have Mayor Adler come and speak.
Good afternoon. I just want to join with the manager in thanking the community. It seems as yet again we've pulled together as a community, and we continue to do that. And it's one of the reasons why I love living in this city. We talked yesterday about the fact that we were producing about 108 million gallons in a city that was trying to use 120. We asked people to conserve, and that's happening now. So we're no longer upside down. We're refilling reservoirs, but we need people to continue conserving. We need people to continue conserving so that we make sure that we're on the right side of that balance. We also need people to keep conserving because the more people conserve, the sooner we're going to be able to get out of this water boil situation that we're in. You're going to have the professionals talk in just a moment, but to reiterate, I think what the manager said, we're anticipating some rain on Wednesday. And the longer it rains, the more we have to deal with this. But if we get the few inches that are anticipated on Wednesday, and then the rain stops, then at some point this weekend we should be moving out. It's anticipated we'd be moving out of a water boil situation. I have been seeing a lot of the social media that was coming out from a briefing this morning at the County Commissioner's Court, and I know you'll be able to ask questions about that later. I think that the miscommunication happened because what was discussed there was a 2-week planning period as opposed to a 2-week anticipated event period. And certainly we want our professionals planning out front because we don't know if there'll be more rain or what could go wrong. But I think that was the confusion associated with that issue. But again, we need people to conserve and to keep that up. We've started doing a really good job. I want to reiterate, no watering outside, no washing cars, no filling pools, no watering lawns. And then on the inside, conserve where you can. Keep showers shorter. The water still is okay to take a shower in. Just keep them short. And then the last thing I would point out, just to make sure that people understand that there's no water shortage, especially with water bottles. I think there were folks that were headed back out to the stores today. I spoke with the folks with some of our largest retailers, and there's plenty of water. There's just limited space in the stores to hold pallets of water. So when shelves are empty, they'll be restocked and refilled. So if you don't get your water bottles today, you can get them tomorrow or the next day. I mean, this is obviously an inconvenience for all of us, and it's a serious situation. But we're a community that pulls together. We're pulling together here, and we'll get through this one too. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Greg Mazeros, Director of Austin Water, and want to give an update on the details of the water system. So as the manager and the mayor communicated, we're seeing improvements all across our water system over the last 24 hours. Water demand is down. Our lowest day of use is today, and that's really, really positive. We want to continue that. Typically, Wednesdays and Thursdays are the largest water use days in Austin, and so it's very important that as we move into tomorrow and Thursday, we do all that we can to reasonably reduce water, no outdoor irrigation, no car washing, manage laundry, dishwashers, all those things. We want this trend to continue. On the water production side, all three of our regional plants are in service and have been in service for the last 24 hours. They're all increasing capacity. Our combined capacity is now up to about 1/3 of typical, so still well below normal, but improving. We are producing more water than we're consuming. That's allowing us to refill our reservoirs across our system. We can store about 1 day's water in our reservoirs, and we want to recharge those reservoirs to get that buffer back in our system so we can maintain system pressures, so we can continue to provide good fire protection and just have a system that has a little extra water in it to work through the future. On the water quality side, we're seeing improvements in raw water quality, although it's still very poor river quality. We have a short little video. This particular shot was taken in front of one of the intakes of our water plants, and you can see this is improved water quality. This is what we're trying to treat here. This is really, the results of the Llano flooding and the historic flooding on the Llano River, washing down into our system. I have an example. So we're trying to take that water, which is about 250 NTUs of turbidity, is how we measure it, and turn it into this. This is water that is less than 1 NTU. So that river water has to pass through our plant and become this. And that's really the challenge. We've had to slow down the treatment process at our plants, hence the lower capacities, in order to treat that really, really bad water and turn it into this. And that's why the capacity reduced use is so critical. Over time, we'll slowly be nursing our plants back to more production, but until we get there, we need to stay focused on reducing demand. We're also coordinating closely with our partners across the region, of course through the EOC and Travis County and all of those, but also working very closely with LCRA as they are managing flows in the upper basin as we get potentially more rain today and tomorrow as they work on floodgates. We're in regular contact with LCRA and working on that. We're also working very closely with TCEQ, the state agency that regulates water utilities. We're meeting with them daily, discussing with their leadership on the phone about our current situation and more specifically the action plans that we'll need to work with TCEQ to pull out of the boil order and bring our system back into service. It's something we'll have to coordinate with TCEQ, and we're starting that process now. So we're cautiously optimistic, seeing improvement across all parts of our system over the last 24 hours. If that continues, we'll be in a good state. As the mayor and the manager and we all communicated, the one thing we can control is how much water we use. We can't control the weather, but we can control that aspect of it. And so that's the way every Austinite can make a difference over the next few days and help us get out of this boil order faster, is reducing their water and managing their water.
Happy to take questions.
Can you explain why the boil water notice is in effect? Just because it's my understanding that there have not been any tests that have actually failed standards. So was this simply precautionary?
Sure. Absolutely, it was precautionary, and it is important that when we see that there is a risk to the public, that we are taking every step that we can as a city government to avoid any potential harm to our community. This was carefully discussed with Austin Water. They discussed it with their partners, and they came to that conclusion, and that recommendation was brought to me. Do you want to say any more on that?
Well, I think the manager, you said it well. I wouldn't add any more to that.
Is there any level where it's mandated, like if you can't reach a certain amount of clearing the turbidity, that you're mandated to issue a boil water notice, or was it just completely well, we're going to do this because we just want to do it? We think it's the best idea. It's not mandated.
Yes, there are specific measurements that compel you to do a boil water order. We did issue our boil water order before we crossed over any of those compelling ones, although we were approaching those and we wanted to get ahead of it. You got to protect public health and safety first, and that's why we decided to make that recommendation.
Why did you not issue a civil emergency message or any kind of messaging that would allow to activate the EAS system or utilize that as far as reimburse 911 and all the other metrics or getting service out to people? I know there were some concerns with people yesterday not receiving notice until the afternoon in their email from Austin Energy, I think, or Austin Resource Recovery. Thank you, Juan. And Juan, can you spell your name for us?
Yes, my name is Juan Ortiz. I'm the Director for Home Security and Emergency Management with the City of Austin. The city actually used several different tools to get out emergency information. The civil emergency message is just one of the tools. We issued out press releases. We issued out social media notifications, and then we did follow it up at midday with updated information, and we did send out a notification using our regional notification system that we normally call the Warren Central Texas. So it's just not one opportunity, but we actually notified several different times, many different methods, and there's not just one way of sending out warning notifications.
Mr. Ortiz, but why didn't you use the reverse 911? There are many citizens who called us at the station who said they're not social media savvy, and they have flip phones. They're older citizens, and they were wondering why the 911 reverse 911 method wasn't used.
We looked at that situation and we identified the tools that we wanted to utilize that we thought were the most adequate for that given situation. I really felt that working with the media, coming to you all for your assistance in it, that you all really helped us get a lot of that word out. When we had updated emergency information later on in the day, we did send out. We did use the notification system. It sent out emails and text notifications at that point. Didn't really thought at that point in time, in the middle of the day, that sending telephone notifications was that adequate. A lot of the word was already getting out, word of mouth, and we were constantly sending out throughout the day updated information. That was just a decision that we made, given the situation that we had, and we made the best decision that we thought at that point in time.
A lot of people are trying to find out how long this will last. What is the solution? What are we waiting on? Are we waiting on Lake Travis to go down? When can we anticipate this being over? Is there a timeline at all?
I think there's a few parameters to that. One, we need to recharge our system and fill our reservoirs. That's our protective buffer for fire protection, for maintaining minimum system pressures. For the last several days, we had been draining down our reservoirs, and today we reversed that and are starting to fill them up. That will take at least a couple of days to go through, and it ties back to demand management. I think a second parameter is that our plants are reliably treating enough water to continue to meet the demand and make sure our reservoirs are filling up, and that water is of high quality and meets all the regulatory standards. We're getting there as our plants are improving here, and so we think within a very short time we'll be there. The one variable that we can't control is the weather. If we get a washout rain event again in the Llano Basin or the Pedernales Basin or some part of the reservoir system above us, and turbidities soar again, that could be a setback. And so I think we'll have a better sense of that after Wednesday to Thursday morning, and as all of that starts to come together, we'll be able to begin to pull out of the boil water notice. Pulling out of the notice will require us to do enhanced bacteriological sampling to demonstrate that our system is certifiably safe. We'll be working with TCEQ on that. We've been doing bacteriological sampling all along. We do it every day no matter what, and we haven't seen any problems. We'll probably intensify that and work with TCEQ and hopefully, again, all that comes together, and we'll be pulling out of this within a reasonable amount of time. Hopefully, as the mayor suggested, by this weekend. But again, there are certain variables that we can't predict or control, and we'll have to evaluate those over the next few days.
We've heard various accounts of when the city and Austin Water knew that there was an issue with the water supply and the water, the water supply and the water system. Some people have said that y'all might have known as early as Thursday. Others said that they got notice on Sunday night. When did Austin Water find out about this, and why was the alert not sent out until Monday morning to many of the restaurants here?
Well, up until, again, we did a precautionary boil water notice. We did it ahead of any violation, so there was no compulsive reason to do it. You know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and into a good part of Sunday, we were still working through the process of determining if we needed to do a boil water notice. We were trying to stabilize our plants. We were trying to increase production to stay ahead of demand. As water quality continued to deteriorate, we had our own emergency operations center opened at the utility. And Sunday night, we came to the conclusion that we could not pull out of the demand and mismatches, and our water quality was approaching parameters that we were concerned about. And then we made the decision that it would be best interest of the community and the utility to issue the boil water notice. So until Sunday, we didn't come to that conclusion, and we're hopeful that we could have worked through this.
Why was the notification process all over the place? The text messages and the emails, why were they not all at once? I got mine at 5:30 in the afternoon. Some people got it last night. Some people got it earlier this morning. Can you take us step by step how that was laid out?
Okay, that question is pretty broad. I'm gonna answer it in a couple of different ways. So when you get to a point to where you think you're going to do a boil water notice, we can all tell you that it's not something that we just take very lightly. You don't just do it for the sake of doing it. You want to make sure that all your communication is very specific and concise on what it means and what we're trying to tell the community and at what time. Make sure we identify all the people that need to be identified, all the different industries that need to be notified, and we bring a whole team to do it, and we set out different team partners to start that notification process. The main triggers, or when we start going out to the public, is when we start doing our press releases, and we use the social media, Facebook and Twitter specifically, to get the information out, put the information out on the website. And throughout the day, yesterday, as we saw that there was a need for additional information, then we went ahead and used the regional notification system that we call Warren Central Texas, and we send out specifically emails and text notifications, a total number of approximately 800,000 notifications that went out, and I'll verify that number and I'll get it to you after the press conference. And that's a combination of emails and texts. At that point in time, you all have been covering the event. We felt that really the most appropriate thing to do was to send out this that information in that manner at that particular point in time. So you don't just do one thing and then walk away from it. You're doing several different things to ensure that you're talking to all of the restaurants in a certain way. You're talking to all the school districts in a certain way, all the hospitals and all the residents. So it's really a complex process that we go through, and I really felt that we did the best that we could given the circumstances and what we knew at that point in time, and something that we have not done on a citywide basis that I think our citizens will be very proud of how we did it.
Once the order is lifted, are people going to have to run their sinks for a while, flush out the water that's currently in the pipes, and for how long do you think?
No, I mean, that wouldn't be a requirement that we would issue. That wouldn't be my anticipation. Once we certify the system and lift the boil water notice, water would be safe to use.
You know, the water in there would be the same water that you guys have previously said was possibly dangerous?
Well, again, we did it ahead of any requirement. We will take steps to make sure the system is fully disinfected. We'll probably do some flushing of our system. Again, working with TCQ, we'd have clean samples, hundreds of clean samples. I mean, we would just take the necessary steps. I mean, obviously, if the public wanted to run their water, we wouldn't discourage that, but we wouldn't say that would be a requirement.
Can you talk a little bit more about the water pressure issue? Because like, it seems like that's really a big concern on your part. The boil water was a cautious thing, it wasn't mandated, but what we heard yesterday afternoon is that we were getting close to running out of water if we kept in this negative trend, right? That would have lowered water pressure, and that could have been a very serious problem.
Yeah, because our plant capacity is impaired, it goes back to this mismatch that we are experiencing between use and production. And as the system is being dewatered, that's coming out of our reservoirs. There's certain reservoirs that drain first, and those preserve system pressures, which we are required to maintain 20 psi of system pressure, because that's protective. That makes sure that there's no cross-contamination getting in the system. You have constant pressure going out. So that was our concern. If one of our reservoirs drained and pressure in a part of our system dropped below 20 psi, even though we're in a boil water notice, that is still a risk. And so that's what we were trying to lift the system up so that we didn't have that experience. And that happened. We didn't go below 20.
Cross-contamination could have been something coming into the pipes because the pressure in the pipes wasn't enough to keep
That's
out.
right. That's why it's protective. You want to try to maintain at least 20 psi at a minimum.
You said that Austinites appear to be doing well today in terms of conserving. What are the numbers about like how well there seems to be lower in usage today?
I would say roughly 15%, 15 to 20%. Water demand is diurnal. It goes through morning peaks and evening peaks as people go home and maybe begin to take showers in the morning or prepare for the evening. So we do see some variation throughout the day, but if you look at, this day compared to, say, a few weeks ago or an average over the last few years, we are seeing good progress in that regard.
A number of people on 311 were complaining about sprinkler usage. How much of a problem is that, and how does it affect the water system?
Well, obviously, sprinkler usage is totally banned right now. First of all, you don't need to be watering your grass because it's been raining for a month. But beyond that, it just should not be happening. And so that's the message. If we see it, we're going to knock on your door and lean on you. If a resident sees it and they call 311 and pass it on to us, we have patrols out 24/7. It's a big city. We can't be everywhere, but we're a public water utility. The public owns us. We're in this together, and that's the kind of things people can do to help us. We understand that you have to flush your toilet, but you don't have to water your grass. I mean, that is just not something that. Be top of mind with that. Just go out and turn off that irrigation system.
You mentioned how we got all this rain. We had a drought all before this. Does that play any role in this issue that we're having?
Yes, because this summer was very hot and dry. The soil's baked out. When this huge, unprecedented Llano River flooded came, it not only washed unbelievable amounts of soil in there, but the soil was particularly very fine. And the technical term is colloidal. And colloidal soils, colloidal material in the water supply is extraordinarily difficult to treat out. And so that's what's made it really difficult, where we had to reduce our plant capacity so low because it was taking us so long to treat out all of that soil. So that is a unique experience for us. We've been providing water for 100 years. This has never happened to us. This is blowing our mind too. We're just like, this was tough, and that was some of the factors that went into it, the volume and the type of soils.
The city is asking for residents to do a lot of things, but are you guys talking to businesses, specifically large businesses that consume large amounts of water, to see how they might cut back on their usage? And what would you be doing?
Yes. So a few things. One, we have contacted some of our largest users and have been updating them along the way and encouraging them to reduce water as much as possible. We also have contracts with smaller communities around us that use our water. A lot, Wells Branch Mud, North Austin Mud, WCID 10, those kind of users. We have been communicating to them, and they should be and are required per their contracts to follow all of our water reduction guidance requirements, and so we have been communicating to them and expecting them to be doing all the things that we're asking our own retail customers to do.
Specifically large-scale businesses, ones with big operations in town, not talking about water districts, but actual businesses that use a lot. Are any restrictions being placed on them at this point?
No, we haven't put restrictions on business use where we would say stop production. We haven't closed commercial businesses. We haven't directed any business to actually close, or obviously we're encouraging them to reduce water use. You know, some industries, if they're going to stay open and produce a product, they're going to have to use water, and we haven't been requiring those businesses to close.
If this is not fixed by this weekend, the county is preparing for 10 to 14 days. I know you said hopefully by this weekend, but if this is not fixed by this weekend, then what? Is there a worst case scenario, and do you have a plan for it?
Well, obviously, we want to plan long term. You know, that's the goal, is to be over prepared, not under prepared. As I've been repeating, that some of these things are out of our control. We'll be evaluating them, you know, based on the rain. I'm optimistic that we're going to be able to pull out of this boil water notice sooner rather than later. I can't really comment on, you know, all the speculation of some of that.
But can you tell us why your estimate of the event varied so much from the county?
Good afternoon. I'm Chuck Brotherton. I'm the Travis County Executive for Emergency Services. I'd like to start by thanking the county's partners at the state of Texas and the city of Austin for all of the assistance and help that they are providing and helping us work through this event. I'd also like to thank our community for pulling together. The county has, we continue coordinating closely with our partners at the city. And I'd like to thank our emergency managers for helping us through this. If you tell an emergency manager to plan a 5-day trip, they will pack a bag. They will pack a bag for 10 days. It's just the way that they are wired. We have every confidence in the projections of the Austin Water Utility for the duration of this event, and we again thank our partners at the city for the close coordination. And we will, in the interest of protecting the safety of our residents, continue planning for the possibility that the duration of this event might exceed those projections.
I have a question for the City Water Department again. Sort of put bluntly, if I open the tab on my tap water, is that water safe to drink right now?
We're not certifying that it's safe to drink. We want you to boil the water.
And then a few follow-ups. Just could you talk about the impact that this has had on businesses and restaurants? Because given that the water hasn't failed any tests, you would think that water is actually still safe to use. And then separately, are there health inspectors who are going around and making sure that those restaurants are not using that water in a way that they're not supposed to?
I would probably have.
Good afternoon, Stephanie Hayden, Austin Public Health. Our health inspectors are being very proactive. We are in constant communication with all food establishments. And as a part of that process, we have worked with 311, so individuals, if they have a concern about a restaurant that they have visited, they can contact 311 and do a service request and make a complaint. If an establishment has a question about something that they're doing in their operations, our inspectors are available to provide technical assistance. From a financial impact, we have been alerted that various restaurants on their own, not based upon what we have recommended from a safety practice, have taken some measures. So if they have fountain drinks, they're not serving fountain drinks, for example, or they may be using paper plates. So they have made the decision to do some things on their own. We will continue this week as we're going through this process to continue with our educational and technical assistance and not enforcement.
So does that include proactive inspections? I guess I wasn't clear on that. Like, are inspectors going to restaurants proactively, or is it only if somebody calls and says, I think there's a problem here?
So we go to restaurants proactively. That's our line of business. So we have not changed that operation.
Folks, we got time for about 3 more questions at most, and we need to start getting back to work. So can we go ahead and just...
Can I just ask, how close did we get to that water pressure drop, the 20, what did you say, PSI, that would have been a concern?
I don't have an exact number. We didn't go below 20 psi. It's not a system-wide measure. As I mentioned, there's portions of the system that will go down earlier, first rather than later. It depends on elevations of the system. The higher you are, the lower your pressure will generally be. So there were a couple of reservoirs that were at risk, but again, that's not the current case.
And the cross-contamination, could that come through like holes or leaks in the pipes that would normally be pushed out, but if it was too low, something could come in?
Yes.
How much of this? How much of the burden of treating the water is falling on each plant? Is the newest plant shouldering much more of that right now compared to the ones that were built for several decades ago?
No, and it's varied at times. I mean, at times we've even taken plants out of service to do some cleaning or evaluation, so it'll vary. But I think over the part of this, our Davis drinking water plant, which is our oldest plant, has actually been producing a little bit more volume of water. Ulrich has been up and down a little bit, and Plant 4 has been up and down a little bit. But all 3 plants are down in their capacities, roughly 2/3. Water quality at Plant 4, raw water quality at Plant 4 was the best today. And so Plant 4 may be the one that would increase production first, but I don't know. I mean, we're just taking it day by day. We have to nurse these plants back. If we press on the gas too hard before they're ready, the water quality will deteriorate, and so that's what we're working through, is building back up in a way that is sustainable.
I just want to reiterate what the director said, that things are getting better. And I want to thank the community for all of their efforts for both conservation and ensuring that they're being safe in their drinking water that's coming from the tap. So it is with that spirit, bringing all Austin together, that we will get through this. And I really appreciate the work that all of our partners have done to get to this point. I'm going to invite the mayor up for some closing remarks.
Manager, I think you said it really well. I think that everybody in the community should know that the work that we're all doing together is having exactly the impact that we would want it to have. With the increased conservation, the system can be nursed back to health, and it makes the end of the boil requirement come to a conclusion that much more quickly. So I think that the messages that we want everyone really to take back with them is, number one, we should continue to conserve. No water outside, limit water inside. If you're going to use water to drink or with your food, then you have to boil it, because we can't certify that it's okay otherwise. And that this is something that we would expect, hopefully, with the amount of rain that's predicted on Wednesday, that ends in a matter of days, not weeks. Everybody should continue to conserve more than anything else. I think that's the message we want people to take home. And I really appreciate, I've had another close-up look at watching our professionals in this city work. The team that we have at Austin Water is working around the clock. The emergency folks, the whole team assembled is just doing just a heck of a job, and I'm real appreciative on behalf of the city. I think that's it.